Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary, quite incredible, quite unlike anything. Hello, my fellow bookworm friends. How are you all doing? I'm so glad that you are here. Welcome to March and welcome to Her Endless TBR. Here I talk about books and my reading list, my TBR list, and I review books and I recommend books to you. So, if you love watching this type of content, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. In January and February, I read 6 books, and I am halfway through another book which I didn't finish in January, February. So, I will mention it, but I wouldn't be able to review it properly. So, I am not actually counting it officially. So I read 6 books in January, February, and honestly, it's not bad at all because 2025's beginning was very productive for me. And I read like 19 books in total. But here I will only talk about the books that I read in English, and other books I read in my own mother tongue, Bengali. So those are saved for the Bengali video. But here I have these books to talk about, and I'm really excited that you are here. So let's begin. First book I want to mention is Not Child. This is the first book I read in 2025, and I wholeheartedly adored this book. I can't even tell you how much I loved this. This is a retelling of a Norse mythology. We are following Rose, this girl, and she is a born wanderer slash adventurer, and she is from a very poor family, and they are really struggling and they're having a difficult time. Her sister is also very sick and they have a huge financial problem. But one day, a white bear, a huge white bear, arrives at their doorstep, and he offers to help them and get them out of this difficult times only on one condition. And the condition is if they allow Rose to travel with him, and they have to promise that they won't search for her. And though it's a very ridiculous offer, Rose accepts it because she wants to save her family, and then she starts her journey with the white bear. It's magical, it's like a fairy tale, but it's very suspenseful as well. This is beautifully done. The book is so beautiful, and all the description of the north, like the end of the world, the farthest north corner of the world, is so beautiful and so enigmatic that I was completely in awe with the descriptions, and I almost felt like I was there, which is very rare with a book that has so much ice and snow in it. I had such a great time with this book because it was perfect for the chilly wintry season, because this book is full of snow and ice and snowstorm. And there are moments which is really scary as well, because we are also following the negative villain character here, the troll queen, who is really scary. But the book gives you a very warm vibe, which I really enjoyed. It's very cozy. And also, most of the time when we see a cozy, nothing much happens in the book. It's just reading. But that's not the case for this book, because it's full of events and full of suspense. And the ending is so beautiful. I will never forget this book. This is magical. This is like a fairy slash folk tale. And I wholeheartedly love this book. Next up, I have Seishi Yokomizo's The Honjin Murders, and it's a murder mystery, and it's a locked room murder mystery. So there is no clue how the murder happened and how the murderer escaped, because it's a room locked from the inside. And on their wedding day, the man and his bride will get brutally murdered, and now we are following our detective Kindaiki, who is about to solve this crime. I really enjoyed this book, and I finished it within 2 days. It's a translated book. It's translated from Japanese, and it's translated by Louisa Hill Kawai. I hope I am pronouncing the name correctly. But here, what I loved about this series is it's very unique. It has all the dramatic moments that you expect in a mystery, but also it's very rich in the Japanese culture, and it gives you an insight of the Japanese lifestyle and the belief system of the period. I have found Kendaichi very endearing. I have found him very funny. is a perfect blend of Sherlock and Poirot because he has this quirk and whimsical nature of Sherlock Holmes, and he has this cheeky and very intelligent, smart, silent, observing quality of Poirot. So he's a perfect blend of both of these characters. And the author has also acknowledged that he was inspired by Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is one of my favorite Agatha Christie. After reading this book, I know why he has mentioned her because he has followed a similar structure, but it's not um, exactly the same. So there is nothing predictable. If you have read Roger Ackroyd, you can read this one. It is not at all similar to the plot, but the way it is structured is very similar. In this, we are also following the family, and the matriarch in this book is obnoxious, and the family dynamic is very interesting because there are or four sons who are terrified of their mother, who don't have their freedom. This also has a very interesting insight on societal belief and women's role in the society. I found that very fascinating in this book. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars and I had a great time. And I'm waiting to read more from the series because I really vibed with this book. Next book is the only nonfiction book of this list, and it's Bell Hooks All About Love. First of all, let me tell you, I'm so proud of myself for finishing a nonfiction book this year because I'm trying to read more nonfiction this year. And I had started that journey with this book, and I'm really glad I did that because I thoroughly loved this book. This book had a very deep impact on my mind. In this book, Bell Hook talks about love from different angles, from socio-political angles, and also from the individual perspective. How love is misinterpreted in the society by us, and how we as a society couldn't actually fathom the depth of the meaning of love. I absolutely love these discussions in this book. One thing that I really loved about this book is how she talks about love not as an emotion or feeling, but as an action which needs our attention and which we need to perform consciously on a daily basis. Whether it's self love, whether it's love for the others. Here we not only talk about the romantic love, but the love we get from our parents, from our siblings, from our community, from our friends. So she discusses love in all forms, and she talks about how love is important to end fascism or any kind of political oppression, any kind of brutalism, and how we as a modern society sometimes look at love with a cynical POV and how it's harming ourselves. And this hopeless attitude towards love is unhelpful. And culturally, love has been a part of humanity for so long, but we kind of look down upon love because we think it's not an intellectual topic to talk about. I think this is one of those books which are not tagged as the self-help books, which by the way I hate as genre in books. But this is a true self-help book if you want to learn or unlearn many things about love in the life. Next up, I have 2024's Booker Prize winning book, Samantha Harvey's Orbital. The book is following 6 astronauts from different part of the world who have come together in a spaceship, and they are contemplating about their existence in the earth, and they're looking at the earth and humanity from the outside, which is not very common for human beings. These people are living outside the earth and they're looking at art from a different perspective. It is moving, it's exquisite, it has beautiful poetic prose sections which I underlined and I love, and I was completely enchanted by the prose. But the problem I had with this book that I expected this book to delve more into the characters' psyche and I wanted to know these characters more, but I had a difficult time differentiating between these characters. So I wouldn't say this was a very good reading experience. It was really slow, but there are moments in this books which inspired me so much as a reader and also as a writer. But as I said earlier, it was difficult for me to stay invested in the book. And though it's a very short book, it took longer. I'm kind of conflicted about this book. I didn't hate this book, but I didn't love the experience of reading this book, but I loved the concept and the writing of this book. I don't know whether I'm making any sense at all. Also, I think the problem is not entirely the books. I'm also responsible because when it comes to astronomy, my knowledge is no more than a lion's knowledge on the vegan foods. You know what I mean? So I couldn't imagine the world she was describing. So I wanted to understand the place more, to put myself there and go into the character's psyche, which I couldn't. In many places, there are description of how Earth is looking from the spaceship, which got a tiny bit repetitive, in my opinion, because I wanted to learn more about these six characters. That's all. But this is a beautifully written book, and you should read this one. Next up, I have the favorite book of this reading wrap up video, and it's a classic. This is the first classic of 2025, and it's Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. What a book! What a book! This follows an American man who is at war with his own sexual identity, who is battling with himself and his own desire. And I loved how beautifully the book is written. I have fallen in love with this book. I want to go back to this book more and more. I kept on rereading so many sections of this book. I have underlined so many pages. I loved how the book has created this world of Giovanni's room as a metaphor of a place which this American man considers as dirty and a suffocating place to be, but that is his reality. And this young American man is in love with Giovanni, an Italian bartender. It deals with their relationship dynamic and his inability to accept the love he has for Giovanni. It's not about the homosexual relationship at all. As the author himself mentioned, it's about being so much damaged that you have lost the power or the ability to love someone fiercely. And the way he has been taught to love a woman, to live a normal, quote unquote, normal life. As an American man, his notion of this normalcy is broken here. The way Paris is described in this book as a place which, in his head, is trying to scandalize him, he's trying to pollute his American ways, and it's drawing him closer to Giovanni. And he's considering the place, Giovanni's room, as a prison of his identity. I completely loved this writing. This is such a short book, and I know Giovanni's room is going to stay on my top 10 classic list because it's unparalleledly beautiful. I want to read a quote from this book which literally moved me. Somebody, your father or mine, should have told us that not many people have ever died of love, but multitudes have perished and are perishing every hour and in the oddest places for the lack of it. I was speechless after reading this book. I thought about these lines and I went back to these lines every day because it's something that I have never read. And that is the power of literature. That is the power of good writing, right? It makes you feel certain emotions that you never knew existed in you before reading this book. Another character which really moved me is Hella, the girlfriend of the main character, David, the American man. And she is not an usual down girl which society thinks her to be, but she's very clever and she's aware of the reality of women in this world. And the example of it is clear in her conversation with David in this section. I don't see what's so hard about being a woman, at least not as long as she's got a man. And this is said by David. And Hila replies, "That's just it," said she. "Hasn't it ever struck you that that's a sort of humiliating necessity?" And after that, she said, "But what I mean about being a woman is we might get married now and stay married for 50 years, and I might be a stranger to you every instant of that time, and you might never know it. For a woman," she said, "I think a man is always a stranger." So you can understand the three characters of this book, David, Hella, and Giovanni, they are very different people. They're paths cross in Paris and they meet each other in the most horrible time of their life and they hurt each other so badly. The book is sad and the book is beautiful. I can't stop gushing about how good this book is. If you want to make me cry, just write books like Giovanni's Room and I will pay you again and again to do that to me. Beautiful, beautiful. Even from the blurb quotation is in the book where David is describing Giovanni. This portion is also my favorite list. I have to read this to you. Until I die, there will be those moments seeming to rise up off the ground like Macbeth's witches. When his face will come before me, that face in all its changes, when the exact timbre of his voice and tricks of his speech will nearly burst my ears, when his smell will overpower my nostrils. Come on, who describes their lover in this way? Absolutely, absolutely love this book. And I'm so honored to discover Giovanni's Room. And I can't wait to read more from James Baldwin. Beautifully written book. The last book from this wrap up video is a thriller by Riley Sager and it's called The Only One Left. I love a good gothic thriller and this book delivered. I have heard a lot of things about Riley Sager and all of them are positive, of course. And I know why he is so hyped because I devoured this book. I couldn't stop reading this book. When I closed this book, I thought about this book. I thought about the world. So, in this book, we are following Kate, a young nurse come caregiver. She doesn't like to be called a nurse, but she is employed to take care of a woman, an elderly woman named Lenora. She is completely paralyzed. She can only lift her left arm. But this Lenora is not a simple old lady. She was accused of murdering her entire family, including her parents and her young sister, at the age of 17. Due to lack of evidence and witnesses, she was never prosecuted by the police, but the people of the locality consider her to be the killer and they stay away from this huge mansion on the cliff besides the river where Lenora stays. And Keith, like other local people, also believes that Lenora is the killer who slaughtered her entire family. But the twist is Keith is also blamed for something she has done and she wants to prove herself innocent. And one day, Kit discovers a typewriter and through which Lenora communicates with Kit and she starts typing about what happened at the night. Here she is in this huge gothic mansion, which is, by the way, getting destroyed by the sea every day. It is slowly turning into a ruin. So we have a really limited time left to hear what Lenora has to say in her defense. Wonderful, wonderful thriller. I have discovered through years that I don't actually enjoy contemporary modern day thrillers. I enjoy thrillers which have gothic vibes, historical setting, and this is set in 1980s and the murder happened in 1929. So it's an old era. And each and every chapter ends with a cliffhanger. Pun intended. As you can see, it's on the cliff. I love how the story unfolds. It's twist after twist, twist after twist. I couldn't breathe. And I lost the track of time reading this book. I finished this book within 2 days, though this book is like almost 400 pages long. So I didn't sleep, I didn't eat. I just read this one. It's so addictive. So addictive. So this was my January and February reading wrap up. I hope you have loved this video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to Her Endless Library. I will see you soon. Tada, take care.